Chloe Sullivan and I grew up together, but ever since the new transfer student called Jennings showed up, she's been giving me the cold shoulder. So, I decided to give her some space. It wasn't until she noticed me getting closer with my quiet, unassuming deskmate that she finally started to panic. Later, she tried to explain, saying she was just helping the new kid fit in. I just smiled and didn't say a word. What she didn't know was that my quiet, unassuming deskmate was already the mother of my daughter. We were a family. Chloe, the girl next door, was now just the girl who lived next door. The milkshake incident. Ryan, why are you bringing Eliza Vance breakfast? Senior year. After first period, Chloe Sullivan slammed a carton of milk on my desk. I knew it was her version of a peace offering. Ever since we were kids, whenever we fought, all it took was for her to hand me a drink, and I'd cave. But this time, I didn't even look up. My stomach's been off lately. You drink it. Chloe was clearly not satisfied with that answer. Are you doing this because you're jealous that I'm hanging out with Kyle? She pressed. Is this your way of getting my attention? You could have at least picked someone pretty, she added, glancing at Eliza with disgust. I'm not going to get jealous over some ugly freak. To be honest, even after sitting next to Eliza for almost 2.5 years, I had never really seen her full face. She always had these long bangs covering her eyes, kept her head down, and never spoke. The girl had a permanent rain cloud over her head. A lot of kids said Eliza was ugly. It was a ridiculous claim. Just looking at the lower half of her face, you could tell she was decent looking, average at worst. The people who spread those rumors were mostly just jealous of her grades and figured she was an easy target because she was a loner. I'll admit I'm a sucker for a pretty face, but even if she were plain, I'd still have her back. She's the mother of my child, after all. The second Chloe's words were out, I grabbed the milk, ripped it open, and threw it in her face. If your mouth is that foul, you should brush your teeth before coming to school, I said coldly. If you can't afford toothpaste, I can help you wash it out. Ryan, what the hell are you doing? Chloe, dripping with milk, was completely stunned. She let out a furious shriek that echoed through the classroom. We'd known each other our whole lives, and I had always been at her beck and call. Forget splashing milk on her. In the past, when we fought, I was the one who would just sit and stew by myself. Just then, Kyle Jennings, who had been secretly watching the whole thing, rushed over. Ryan, what kind of man throws a drink on a girl? Do you have any class? She came over here, spewing garbage first. You're a little simp, aren't you? Jumping in without even knowing what happened. I sneered. Then again, she's always taking care of you. I guess you should be kissing her feet. Kyle's face turned beet red. You, he sputtered, unable to form a sentence. The commotion had attracted the attention of half the class. I could hear whispers repeating the word simp. The guy had that roguishly handsome look that a lot of high school girls fall for. He was dismissive to every girl in class, except for Chloe, who he constantly followed around. In contrast, as class president, I usually helped out any of the girls who asked. I was kind of the Mr. Nice guy to everyone. Maybe it was the special attention from a guy like that made Chloe accept his advances. Back when they first started hanging out, he used to give me these smug, challenging looks. The last time he did it, I slapped him across the face. Chloe blew up at me, and that's when I decided to just stay away from both of them. I'm not a masochist. Why would I hang around people who were guaranteed to piss me off? A month later, here we were again. Kyle, seething at being called a simp, was speechless. Before transferring, he was popular. He was used to calling other guys simps, not the other way around. Feeling humiliated, Kyle swept his arm across my desk, sending my books and pens scattering across the floor. He shot me a triumphant glare. You're asking for it. I grabbed his wrist, and with my other foot, I kicked him square in the groin. He doubled over, clutching himself and howling in pain. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw our homeroom teacher, Ms. Albright, appear in the doorway. The moment she stepped in, I shoved Kyle's hand into my chest and threw myself backward, hitting the floor with a yell even louder than his. In the principal's office, Ms. Albright stared grimly at me, Chloe, and Kyle. Can someone please explain to me what happened? I spoke first. Ma'am, it was like this. As class president, I noticed that my deskmate, Eliza Vance, was only eating a plain bagel for breakfast every morning. Considering she's one of the top 10 students in our grade, and with college applications just around the corner, I wanted to make sure she had the best shot at getting a good score for the school's honor and for our class. For since I could afford it, I started bringing her a proper breakfast every day in your name. But today, Chloe came over and, in front of Eliza, called her an ugly freak for no reason. I lost my temper and threw the milk at her. At this point, I'd like to apologize to Chloe, I said, nodding curtly in her direction. Then I continued. After I did that, Kyle rushed over, threw my books on the floor, and then he attacked me. Luckily, you arrived just in time. I left it at that. Ms. Albright was sharp. If you tried to badmouth others in front of her, she'd just look down on you. Ms. Albright's gaze turned icy as she looked at Chloe and Kyle. She knew Ryan and Chloe used to be close, and that Chloe had started hanging out with Kyle after he arrived. She had been a teenager once. She knew all about jealousy and high school drama. Trying to play two guys at once from such a young age. What a piece of work. And ever since Chloe started hanging out with Kyle, her grades had been slipping. It wasn't a huge drop, so after a couple of warnings that Chloe ignored, Ms. Albright had let it go. With so many students, she had to focus her energy on the ones who were trying. As for Kyle, he was a classic case of a kid whose parents pulled strings to get him in. Bad grades and a bad influence on others. He was exactly the kind of student teachers hated. All right, Ryan, you can go back to class. Ignoring Chloe's resentful glare, I walked out without a second look. Chloe Sullivan, Kyle Jennings, I need to see your parents this afternoon. Ms. Albright. Kyle started to argue, but she cut him off. Quiet, she snapped. Kyle, do you have any idea how many strings your father had to pull to get you into this school? You have zero gratitude. Not only are you ruining your own future, but you're dragging others down with you. If you keep this up, you can have your father take you home for good. And you too, she said, her voice dropping. Are you dating? Back in the classroom, I found my books neatly stacked on my desk. The spots with milk splatters had been wiped clean. It didn't take a genius to figure out my quiet little deskmate had cleaned up for me. I sat down and whispered to her, I never intended to use you to make Chloe jealous. Eliza's voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz. Was all she said. The Arya enigma. When I got home and sat down on the couch, a pair of small hands covered my eyes. From the shattered plains, the lost one returns. A tiny voice recited. With the echo shard, a new sun burns. Guess who? It's my precious Arya. Wrong. It's the ancient spirit Arya. You little rascal, you've been sneaking peeks at your dad's novels again. I'd recently gotten hooked on a fantasy series called The Ascendant Shard. Reading it felt like a total mental upgrade. The book was a big reason I was able to cut Chloe out of my life so decisively. I turned around and scooped a cherubic little girl into my arms. Has Arya been a good girl today? Arya had shown up on my doorstep a month ago. After a series of unbelievable events, I finally got a paternity test. It confirmed the little girl was, in fact, my daughter, an 18-year-old high school student, forced to awaken his paternal instincts ahead of schedule. Terrified she'd be taken away to some lab for experiments, I told everyone she was the daughter of a friend of my dad's, just staying with us for a while. Daddy, I was super good. You promised that if I was good, you'd take me to see Mommy. Can my precious Arya wait just a little longer? Mommy's working on something really important right now. You'll be able to see her in a month. The little girl pouted but didn't throw a fit. Arya was 5 years old. According to her, she was my and Eliza Vance's child. To make sure it wasn't just a case of the same name, I confirmed that the Mommy she talked about was my high school classmate. My heart, which had been in suspense, finally accepted its fate. My future wife was the deskmate I'd barely exchanged 10 sentences with in 2.5 years. Even more unbelievably, it turned out I was going to be a stay-at-home dad, living off Eliza's income. According to Arya, I spent my days at home with her while Eliza went to work. Even the house we lived in was bought by Eliza. This was a shock. While my family wasn't exactly billionaire-level rich in our suburban town, having assets in the tens of millions was pretty impressive. When I asked where my parents were, she said they had moved back to their old house. Case closed. I go bankrupt in the future. Life is random and mostly sucks. I tried to get more information out of Arya, like what happened to Chloe or why my family went broke, but she didn't know. Fortunately, she did mention that in the future, I'd be live streaming my life as a stay-at-home dad on an app called Vibe Zone. After discussing it with my old man, we figured this app might have potential. He decided to look into it and see if he could invest. It would be a safety net for the family, and we happened to have some spare cash. After learning that Eliza was Arya's mother, I didn't tell her. Eliza wasn't like me. I only got good grades so I could tutor Chloe. I'd heard Eliza's family situation was tough. Her father had passed away, and her mother was in poor health. School was her only way out. Even if I wanted to tell her about Arya, I had to wait until after college applications were done. I also had to seriously consider my relationship with Eliza. With Arya's arrival, my main goal was to prevent my family's bankruptcy. Compared to living off my wife, I much preferred living off my parents. I'm no good at being a kept man, but I'm an expert at being a disappointment. Hey kiddo, you're back. Just as I was playing with Arya, my old man and my mom got home. Mom, my favorite person in the world, your son is starving. Arya, sweetie, Grandpa and Grandma are home. Did you miss us? Arya missed Grandpa and Grandma the most. So much that the fried chicken I had for lunch didn't even taste good. Life's tough. I sighed. Before Arya showed up, I, the college-bound senior, was the star of the family. Now I was just a weed on the side of the road. Luckily, I had an ally. Our cook, Maria, came out and exposed Arya's little lie. Ma'am, Miss Arya had 3 large pieces of chicken for lunch. At the dinner table, I shoveled food into my own mouth while my mom doted on the little one, feeding her bite by bite. After dinner, my old man called me into his study. Mr. Sullivan came to see me today. He wants me to go in with him on a coal mine investment. You're kidding, right? How much money do we have to be thinking about becoming coal barons? It's not a huge mine, just a small one. We'd each put in half. He says if we get the coal out, we're looking at a 7-fold profit. So how much would we have to put up? 20 million. He looked at me, and I knew he wanted my opinion. Mom would never agree to that amount of money. My dad was trying to get me on his side to avoid a war with her. 20 million was no small sum. Mom had secretly told me our family savings were just over 10 million. To invest 20, we'd have to dip into our business's liquid capital or mortgage the factory and our house. Maybe we should pass. 20 million is a lot. And besides, didn't we already agree to invest in that Vibe Zone app? I already found it. Based on the logo Arya drew, I found a company called Pulse Media Group. I invested 5 million, but I have no idea if it'll actually succeed. Your Uncle Sullivan and I have been friends for over 20 years. He's really confident about this project. I want to give it a shot. Is it possible, I said slowly, that this is the project that makes us go bankrupt? Also, I got into a fight with Chloe today. I've decided to cut ties with her. My dad looked at me, surprised. He knew how much of a simp I used to be for Chloe. He was actually a little disappointed when Arya told him we didn't end up together. My mom, on the other hand, after hearing from Arya that Eliza had a difficult childbirth, was filled with sympathy and had me bring her good food and drinks every day. Eliza was reluctant at first, but I wore her down, eventually telling her it was Ms. Albright's idea to get her to eat the breakfast I brought. I thought for a moment and added, if you really decide to give him that money, I will go to school every single day and pick a fight with Chloe. I'll stand in front of the whole school and accuse her family of being scam artists. You little bastard, are you threatening me now? Get out, get out. After I left, my dad sat there thinking. He knew I was the type to follow through on my word. If I really did that, his partnership with Sullivan would be impossible. And he hadn't dismissed what his granddaughter from the future had said about the family going bankrupt. But the allure of money is powerful. A 7-fold profit was intoxicating, like a gambling addiction. Every gambler knows the house always wins, but how many can walk away from the table? Finally, he muttered to himself, so ruthless. First thing in the morning, Chloe was waiting for me on the way to school, looking furious. I didn't even give her a glance and just walked around her. Before Arya showed up, as long as Chloe hadn't held hands or kissed Kyle, I might have tried to win her back. But knowing we didn't get married, I'd given up. I'm not an idiot. Why would I waste my time being nice to someone else's future wife? Ryan, if you keep this up, I'm done with you. Do you know that because of what you said to the teacher, my parents think I'm dating Kyle? They yelled at me for over an hour. If I hadn't sworn up and down that it wasn't true, they were going to come to school and confront him. I never realized how annoying Chloe could be. It was obvious I wanted nothing to do with her, yet she kept pushing. It's true what they say. When you stop liking someone, their very presence is irritating. Not my problem. When things go wrong, maybe you should look at your own actions. The teacher thinks you're dating him because you're too casual. From now on, don't bother me if it's not important. And if it is important, Definitely don't bother me. Ryan, how could you become like this? Chloe stood there, stunned. She couldn't understand how Ryan, the boy she'd grown up with, her childhood sweetheart, could say such cruel things to her. So what if she hadn't talked to him much this past month? Why had his attitude turned so hostile? At that thought, she burst into tears. Chloe, what's wrong? Did Ryan bully you? That bastard. Yesterday, he lied to the teacher about us, and today, he made you cry. If I were your childhood friend, I would never treat you like this, Kyle said, his face a mask of indignation. Kyle, your face. Chloe stopped when she saw him. His face was a mess of black and blue bruises. It was obvious he'd been beaten. Kyle tried to act tough. It's nothing. My dad. You know how he is. He hits me all the time. He turned his head slightly, showing her the bruises more clearly. He knew Chloe had a soft spot for sob stories. The first time they met was when she saw him tending to his own wounds alone and offered to take him to the nurse's office. Sure enough, seeing his injuries, she stopped crying. Let me take you to the nurse's office. Your dad is so cruel, hitting you that hard. And Ryan, too. If he hadn't spread those rumors, your dad wouldn't have hit you. Don't be mad anymore. Ryan likes you. He's probably just jealous that you and I are so close. Kyle was silent for a moment, then said with a hint of sadness, maybe we should keep our distance. I'm a guy. I'll be fine. But I don't want to ruin your reputation. We haven't done anything wrong. Ryan is just being petty. One day he'll regret this. At that moment, Chloe was still convinced that Ryan's actions were all a ploy to break her and Kyle up. His behavior was outrageous. Even if they got married someday, she wouldn't be his property. Did marrying Ryan mean she couldn't even have friends? A flicker of triumph crossed Kyle's eyes. He was lucky to have Ronan as such a naive, rich girl after transferring. Winning her over was a much better prospect than getting into a good college. It was just a shame that Ryan was being so difficult. Without him as a foil, his progress with Chloe would be much slower. In novels, wasn't it always the villain's interference that pushed the main character's romance forward? And that guy hit hard. Every time they had a disagreement, he was all action and no talk. And the teachers were always on his side. The fox's face. Today's breakfast is a steak, egg, and cheese bagel. If that's too heavy, I can go get you an iced coffee. No. You don't like it? No, you don't have to. Thank you. I put the food on Eliza's desk and went back to my book. Honestly, I didn't want Eliza eating something so greasy first thing in the morning, but breakfast was the only meal I could control. She and I have been desk mates for 2.5 years, and I could count our conversations on one hand. Once, during a late-night study session in the winter, she fell asleep at her desk. When school let out, I tried to wake her up, but after several attempts, I realized she had a fever. I carried her to my family's car and had our driver take her to the hospital. I told her to call her family to come, but she refused. So, I played the good guy and waited with her until her 4-drip was finished, then took her home. The second time was when she got her period, and I noticed. I was afraid of mess, so I awkwardly went and bought her a pack of pads. The third time was when she was absent from class, and the teacher asked me to find her. I found her locked in a girl's bathroom stall. After I let her out, I asked around to find out who did it, and had a word with the girls who were bullying her. As class president from a wealthy family, some students' parents even worked at my dad's factory, it was easy for me to use my influence to keep the peace. I was willing to do it. Other than that, the only other interactions we'd had were when Chloe's admirers would give her snacks she didn't want. She'd pass them to me, and I'd give them to Eliza. Beyond those instances, we had barely spoken. That's why, even though I was secretly bringing her breakfast, no one thought anything of it. At most, they just figured I was being helpful. Lunch was always in the crowded cafeteria. It would be too obvious if I specifically got food for her, and that would start rumors. Ryan, why are you being so nice to me? Eliza asked after she finished eating, wiping her mouth. What do you mean? You've been bringing me breakfast for a month. Didn't I tell you, Ms. Albright asked me to? Eliza mumbled. I'm not an idiot. Ms. Albright would ask you to get me an extra sausage biscuit at most. This is lobster and steak every day. She can't even afford that herself. For a moment, I was speechless. Well, we've been desk mates for 2.5 years. I want you to do well on your college applications. And look at you. You're as thin as a rail. I'm worried you'll collapse before you even take the SATs. I bumbled through an explanation. It was all Chloe's fault. In the past, she'd get mad if I even talked to another girl for too long. Now, I was a clumsy idiot when talking to Eliza. Thank you. I'll repay you. Yeah, I believe you will. Repay me, I thought. She already has, by giving me a child and supporting me in another life. Suddenly, a thought struck me. Eliza, we've been desk mates for so long, and I've never even seen your face properly. Your hair covers your eyes. Can you even see? I couldn't go on not knowing what the mother of my child looked like. Eliza hesitated for a moment, then lifted her bangs. A pair of slender, almond-shaped eyes paired with delicate features made one word flash in my mind. A fox. Damn, my future self was eating well. Chloe was pretty, and her family was slightly better off than mine, so she was always impeccably put together. But compared to Eliza, she was lacking. Eliza had a natural, captivating charm. I finally understood why she always kept her hair long. For someone without money, beauty like that wasn't a gift. It was a curse. A wave of possessiveness washed over me. You should probably keep your bangs down, I said a little sourly. I had already slipped into the role of her husband. My wife was this beautiful, and I didn't want anyone else seeing her. 6. Today before to Suts. Time flew, and a month was nearly gone. Ever since I saw Eliza's real face, I'd become her self-appointed bodyguard, taking her home every day after school. She didn't want to attract too much attention, so I bought a bike to ride her home. Tongues would wag if people saw her getting out a luxury car. Soon, rumors would spread around her neighborhood that she had a sugar daddy. She definitely liked me. After refusing twice, she finally agreed to let me take her home. I never expected that on the day before the SATs, Chloe would block our path. What do you want? I scowled, stepping in front of Eliza. We were supposed to be going our separate ways, but she just had to make an appearance. Chloe looked furiously at me and Eliza. Ryan, you've gone too far. You actually hired people to beat up Kyle. Then he should call the cops, moron. I didn't even have to ask. For her to say something like that, Kyle must have fed her some sob story. That son of a bitch. You think he wouldn't? I'm the one who talked him out of it. If he had, you'd have been arrested by now. Your future would be ruined. That's bullshit. Eliza suddenly spoke up. The girl who was usually as quiet as a mouse was now fired up, stepping in front of Chloe. Ryan would never do something like that. Eliza, I haven't even dealt with you yet. Who do you think you are? Do you really think you can slide in just because Ryan and I are fighting? Ryan's family would never accept someone from a broke-ass family like yours. Eliza's eyes filled with tears. Oh, hell no. Nobody bullies my wife. My personal code may not have a rule against hitting my wife, but it absolutely has one for hitting other women. It's called gender equality. Smack! I slapped her hard across the face. Eliza's tears stopped instantly. Next time someone talks trash to you, you talk trash back. If you can't win with words, you use your fists. I'm right here. What are you afraid of? You hit me. My own father has never hit me in my entire life. Chloe was sobbing, a picture of tragic beauty. Suddenly, two guys with bleached blonde hair appeared from around a corner. One of them spoke to me. Hey man, that guy you told us to rough up? We took care of it. Time to pay up the rest. I frowned. My first thought was that I had no idea who these guys were. But Chloe, like a victorious rooster, crowed. Ryan, and you said you didn't hire anyone to go after Kyle. The blonde guy kept going. Pay up. You're not trying to stiff us, are you? If you try to screw us over, I'll beat the crap out of you. Eliza stepped in front of me, her fists clenched. That's when it clicked. I scanned the area, looking for Kyle. Sure enough, I spotted a shadowy figure lurking behind a wall up ahead. I pulled $1,000 in cash from my pocket. This was before mobile payments were everywhere, so I always carried some cash. I don't care what your game is. Take this $1,000 and let us go. The guy's eyes lit up when he saw the money. He snatched it and stuffed it in his pocket. Then his expression turned menacing again. Are you kidding me? You're trying to pay off a beggar? You promised 10 grand. This is only 1,000. You're not going anywhere until we get paid. I knew these guys weren't going to let it go. I pulled Eliza behind me, and I started laughing. Ha ha ha. Have you ever heard the saying, heaven never seals off all paths? I lunged forward, grabbing Chloe and locking her in a chokehold, using her as a shield. Call 911, I ordered. Eliza was startled by my sudden move, but didn't hesitate. She pulled my phone from my pocket and dialed. The two blonde guys tried to snatch the phone, but I used Chloe as a human shield. Any move they made would hit her first. From behind her, I fought back. "Ryan, what are you doing?" Chloe's voice trembled. "How much did Kyle pay you to set me up?" I stared hard at the two guys. "What are you talking about? We just want what we're owed." "Let her go." Before the guys could say more, Kyle rushed out from his hiding spot. He must have seen me grab Chloe and figured it was his chance to be the hero. "Ryan, you bastard, let Chloe go." "Sure, I'll let her go. Get on your knees and bow to me 10 times. Otherwise, I'll snap her neck." To prove my point, I tightened my grip slightly, making Chloe cough and gasp for air. The two blonde guys were completely dumbfounded. "Dude, you're not following the script." The plan was for them to beat me up, then Kyle would swoop in, play the hero, and chase them off. Now, they had no idea what to do. They had even forgotten that Eliza was on the phone with the police. "What's the matter, Kyle? Don't you like Chloe? You're not even willing to kneel for her? I guess you don't like her that much after all. Or maybe you don't like her at all." Chloe couldn't speak, but she looked at Kyle with pleading eyes. Kyle's face was a storm of emotions. He couldn't figure out how I knew he had hired them. And now, if he didn't kneel and I, in my crazed state, actually hurt Chloe, his whole plan would be ruined. Plus, if I went to jail, my parents would never let him get away with it. But kneeling to me, the humiliation was unbearable. Finally, unable to stand Chloe's desperate gaze any longer, he knelt down in shame, closed his eyes, and painfully bowed his head once. Sneak attack. The moment Kyle closed his eyes, I saw my chance. I shoved Chloe to the ground, lunged forward, and kicked him square in the face, sending him flying several feet. "Run!" Before Kyle could get up, I grabbed Eliza, hopped on my bike, and we took off. As we pedaled away, I started yelling at the top of my lungs, "Mugging! Help! We're being mugged! Help!" Just then a police car, sirens blaring, arrived. I turned around and led the police back to the scene. The first words out of my mouth were, "Officer called Jennings and Chloe Sullivan, along with those two guys, tried to rob me." I had already checked. There were no security cameras in this area. Otherwise, they wouldn't have chosen this spot to jump me. This was also a small test for Eliza. As the victim, as long as she backed up my story, the police would most likely believe me. Robbery was a whole different ballgame than Kyle's little frame-up job. Soon enough, my old man showed up at the police station with a lawyer and bailed me and Eliza out. Chloe's father arrived at the same time. "Ryan, what on earth is going on?" Mr. Sullivan was a balding, middle-aged man who had always been nice to me. "How could Chloe possibly try to rob you?" I hesitated before speaking. "Uncle Sullivan, did you recently cut off Chloe's allowance?" One thing at a time. Chloe brought this mess upon herself by getting involved with a lowlife like Kyle. Giving her a motive for robbery was just returning the favor. This wasn't a wild guess. Mr. Sullivan could never bring himself to punish Chloe physically. Cutting off her allowance was his go-to move. As her childhood friend, I knew this all too well. The people closest to you know exactly where to stick the knife. As soon as I said it, I saw Mr. Sullivan's expression change. The last time a school called Chloe's mom in, she came home saying Chloe was dating some punk. Although Chloe insisted she was just helping him out because she felt sorry for him, the seed of doubt had been planted. So he had cut off all her spending money, figuring if she needed anything, she'd just go to me. Always felt safe with me looking out for her. On top of that, he was still smarting for my dad, rejecting his investment proposal. He was really excited about it, and had since found other partners, but their pockets weren't as deep. He ended up investing $30 million to their 10, and his finances were stretched thin. He never imagined Chloe would do something so crazy, or that I would be so ruthless. At that moment, he probably hated Kyle's guts. In the end, after a discussion between my dad and Mr. Sullivan, Chloe was taken home by her father. As for the two blonde guys, under police questioning, they confessed that Kyle had hired them to stage an act. But because they took my money, my lawyer insisted it was robbery. Whatever the outcome, Kyle wasn't going to be taking the SATs tomorrow. That was my goal in giving them the $1,000. Regardless of the amount, if they committed the act of robbery, they were looking at a minimum of 3 years. To reduce their own sentences, the two guys were throwing all the blame onto Kyle. Not long after, Kyle's dad showed up. I was already gone by then. Our lawyer later told me that his father beat him so badly right there in the station, screaming that he had poured his whole life into him, and this is how he repaid him. If the police hadn't intervened, he might have killed him. Turns out, drama is a universal human need. Later, I heard from my old man that Kyle's mom had run off with a rich guy when he was young. His dad had put all his hopes on Kyle, making something of himself to spite his ex-wife. So he was incredibly strict with him. This, of course, backfired and turned Kyle into a delinquent. His grades at his old school were so bad that his dad had practically bankrupted himself to get him transferred. And now, this happened the day before the SATs. What was worse, Kyle was legally an adult. He was sentenced to 3 years, no chance of a do-over. I felt no sympathy for him. He tried to ruin my future the day before the most important exam of my life. This was him reaping what he sowed. After the SATs were over, I took Arya to find Eliza. I had promised her she would see her mom. The little girl was dancing with excitement. Unexpectedly, as my driver pulled into Eliza's apartment complex, an ambulance came screaming up behind us. We immediately pulled over to let it pass. A crowd had gathered. I held Arya and pushed my way through. A moment later, I saw Eliza and a couple of paramedics carrying a middle-aged woman out on a stretcher. "Mommy!" Arya cried out, but her small voice was lost in the noise. I handed Arya to the driver. "Arya, you go back with Uncle for now. Grandma might be in trouble," I said gently. Then I ran toward Eliza. She was surprised to see me, but tears were streaming down her face, and she was too choked with grief to speak. I followed them into the ambulance. At the hospital, Eliza stood vigil outside the operating room. When the staff came out to ask for payment, I quietly went and settled the bill. The cost was staggering. Even I was taken aback. Over $30,000 right off the bat. After several hours, the doctors came out. They couldn't save Eliza's mother. It turned out she had late-stage cancer. She had probably been feeling unwell for a long time, but knowing she couldn't afford treatment, she had endured the pain, holding on just long enough for Eliza to finish her exams. At that thought, I silently cursed Kyle and Chloe again. Those two idiots were messing around before the SATs and nearly ruined Eliza's life. With my help, we arranged the funeral for Eliza's mother. Between the medical bills, funeral expenses, and the burial plot, it all added up to nearly $200,000. It's expensive to be poor, even in death. Eliza's gaze towards me grew more complicated each day. She tried to say something several times, but always stopped herself. I guess she wanted to ask about the money, but even if she did, she had no way to pay it back. If she refused my help, she couldn't even give her mother a proper burial. The choice between survival and dignity is an impossible question. After her mother was laid to rest, I shamelessly stayed at Eliza's apartment, planning to take her to meet our daughter the next day. That night, there was a knock on my door. "Come in." Eliza entered and locked the door behind her. "Ryan, thank you for everything you did for my mother. I can't pay you back right now, but if you want me." As she spoke, Eliza started to take off her pajamas. I knew this was taking advantage of her 100%. But a flicker of disappointment crossed Eliza's eyes. Still, she gritted her teeth and took off her pajamas. Get up, get up." The next morning, I woke up and saw it was already 8 o'clock. I immediately rushed Eliza. Arya had been turning the house upside down for the past 2 days, crying and screaming for her mom. My own mother was at her wit's end. Eliza, still groggy from sleep, looked confused but obediently got dressed. When the car pulled up in front of my house, she finally snapped out of it. "Wait, why did you bring me to your house?" "To take responsibility, of course. Are you going to put on a dress and pretend nothing happened?" "No, Ryan, I can't. I'm not good enough for you. I'm an orphan." "Mommy." Before Eliza could finish, a little girl ran out and hugged her legs, sobbing. "Mommy, I missed you so much." "So this is my daughter with you." After an hour of explanations, Eliza finally accepted that the little girl was her daughter. "If you don't believe me, we can go get a DNA test right now." "No, that's not necessary." "I believe you." Eliza declined the test, her faith surprisingly simple and complete. She immediately started playing with Arya. My old man gave me a look, and we both went to his study. "What's your plan?" "She's the one. As soon as we're old enough, we'll get married." "You've thought this through." "Yeah." I rubbed my nose, a little embarrassed. At first, when I found out Eliza was Arya's mother, I considered the idea of keeping the daughter but not the mother. Now, it was clear just how much a lowlife I was. 10. The future is set. Time flies. Eliza and I graduated from college, and the day we were legally old enough, we got our marriage license. Any later, and it would have been complicated to get a birth certificate for the little one in her belly. Turns out, condoms aren't 100% effective. After going through 3 boxes a month for 3.5 years, an accident finally happened. A lot happened in those 4 years. The most significant thing was that the $5 million my dad invested in that tech company, Pulse Media Group, turned into $500 million when the company went public. Even if I decided to be a bum for the rest of my life, I'd never be able to spend all that money. I also found out how future Eliza was able to support me. After learning she had a daughter with me, she didn't just passively accept the money I gave her. In college, she majored in finance, worked part-time jobs to save up a little money, and started playing the stock market. Over a few years, not only did she not lose money, she made several $100,000. The only sad part was that Arya disappeared. The day Eliza found out she was pregnant again, Arya's body started to become transparent. By the 3rd month of Eliza's pregnancy, she faded completely into points of light and vanished. As for Chloe and Kyle, Mr. Sullivan's coal mine investment went bust. Due to new environmental regulations, he couldn't get a permit to mine the land he'd bought. The broker who sold it to him knew about the issue and was just looking for a sucker to take it off his hands. But Mr. Sullivan, as if possessed, kept pouring money into it, trying to get the mining rights. Before any permits came through, his family went bankrupt. He came to my dad for help once, but it was a bottomless pit no one would touch. Mr. Sullivan even proposed that I marry Chloe. Probably because of the whole Kyle situation, she didn't do well on her SATs. She had always been a top student, but she only got into a mediocre state school. After graduation, she was just another office worker. Marrying me would have at least guaranteed her a comfortable life. But because of Eliza, my dad rejected the offer flat out. After Kyle got out of prison, he tried to get back with Chloe, but by then, she was in no position to help anyone. The creditors legally couldn't come after her, but they didn't care about the law. Some of them even showed up at her college to harass her. I never bothered to find out what happened to Chloe after that. I had deleted all her contact information. Whether she regretted getting involved with Kyle, I didn't care. Everyone makes choices in life. You make the choice, you live with the consequences. Mr. Sullivan hated Kyle with a passion. He was convinced that my family's ruthlessness was all Kyle's fault. Otherwise, why would I, after fawning over Chloe for so many years, suddenly stop? Even a sinking ship has some value. He hired someone to break Kyle's legs. Kyle was in the hospital for half a month. Since his dad had given up on him, he had no money to pay the medical bills and was kicked out. The day he left the hospital, he was hit and killed by a truck. When I received the news, I put down my copy of the Ascendant Shard and made this month's anonymous donation to a fund supporting the son of a truck driver suffering from terminal illness. What can I say? I'm a man full of great love.